Welcome to This Week from the Principal's Desk, where we talk about the challenges facing Lutheran schools and give you our perspective as two Lutheran school administrators. My name is Rob Lunak, and I'm the principal at Mount Calvary Lutheran School in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and my co-host is Mike Sheeman.
My name is Mike Sheeman, and I'm principal at Bethany Lutheran School in Parma, Ohio. And today, Rob and I wanted to have a bit of a conversation, just talking a little bit about getting your school's name out there. How do you make your school noticeable? How do you market your school? Because I actually have just spent the better part of this week looking at enrollment trends in Lutheran schools, specifically here in my own district, and then analyzing my own school's enrollment trend. And it's really interesting to see how much more prevalent, I would argue, Lutheran schools are becoming prevalent and relevant, because our society continues to go on a downward spin. And we can see all of the things that are happening in schools across America, from issues with safety to curriculum to philosophy, all those things, which families are really starting to become frustrated with. And families are really starting to find places that align with their own values. We had one tour this week where we asked them simply, why are you choosing to come and have a look at Bethany? And the mom's response was, because you have Bibles here. And I thought, what a telling story about the way that families are craving the Word of God. And when they find it in our Lutheran schools, it's a joy to have them as part of our community and to share that love with them. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how do you get the word out, because you do not want to be that hidden gem. That's not a good thing.
Yeah, and that's not an uncommon place for a lot of our Lutheran schools to be, I think. I'll hear a lot of the time, oh, we're the best kept secret in town. Why are you a secret? Why aren't you telling everybody about it? And I think for a lot of Lutheran schools, the dynamic has changed. It used to be you got all the kids that went to your church, they went to your school, and that was usually enough kids to support your school enrollment. And there are still some schools and churches that can do that, but that is becoming less and less common as time goes on. And so now you need to get your name out there and get your message out there and tell these people, hey, here are the great things going on at our school. Here are the great things that our students get to experience and that we get to offer families, and get that out outside of the four walls of your supporting congregation or your supporting association churches. Because for parents, they're going to be looking at, okay, well, what about the Catholic school down the street? What about this non-denominational school, across the block from us? What about even the public school? And now you're competing against all of those because parents are looking. You will have parents at your school because your school is a safe place. That'll be the first thing they say. School's safe. I like it here because it's safe. And the faith aspect for a lot of your families might make it on number 4 on the list. Maybe it's in the top 5, but it's not like it used to be, where the very first thing they wanted is that you were a Lutheran school. The right. Dynamic has changed, and so now you got to figure out, how do you tell that story? So Mike, what do you guys do there at Bethany? What is the story you pick for your school that you share with your community?
Well, first and foremost is, of course, about Jesus, but like you were just saying, that's not what they're necessarily looking for. And I conducted a study, this was probably about 4 years ago, about why do people choose, and I went generic to say Christian schools across the board. And of the top 20 answers that I got, Jesus was number 12. And that still to this day just boggles my mind that the faith aspect was so low. And when you ask people, what are they looking for? Like you were right, safety and security, that was number 1. But they were looking at qualified teachers, small class sizes, technology, extracurricular offerings. All of those things were what people were saying that they wanted to come and be a part of at your school. And so the message that we send, and there's probably a million views on this, and there's no right or wrong, I would argue, but we looked at what were those top 5, and our marketing certainly went to those top 5, because at the end of the day, my own view is, I don't care why you're here, you're going to hear about Jesus. And so if you came here because you really like that we're a one-to-one Chromebook environment, awesome. Let's talk about the gifts that God gives us in technology, all those different things. And so sometimes it's okay to market your school with other things, never to the exclusion of the fact that you're a Lutheran school. You should never hide that or surprise anybody with it. Of course, it's in everything that you do. But if you were to put a big billboard up that says, we are the safest school in town, and you can back that statement up and all those types of things. I would argue that's an okay thing to do. How do you feel about that, Rob?
Yeah, the Lutheran school identity is a specific thing that you should be leaning on, but that is not always the differentiator in your community, right? Because if you said, okay, we have Jesus here, the Catholic school can say the same thing. And so what makes you different from them? My wife used to be a Catholic preschool teacher. She's not Catholic, right? She taught at a Catholic school, teaching their 3 and 4K kids. And a lot of the things for a lot of the families were very similar. Oh, we talk about Jesus. We talk about how Jesus died for our sins and how God loves us and we're a child of God. All that language is the same. And so outside of that, if your differentiator is that you are the one religious school in town and you truly are the one religious school in town, you can totally lean into that. That can absolutely be the thing you push out there to your community for them to know. But if you're not, that religious identity is obviously a foundational part of who you are as a school. But if that's all you're going to lean on, you're going to look a lot like all the other schools. And that's what you got to figure out. And that's going to be different for every school. What is it that you do better than anybody else, right? That's what you got to figure out. And that's going to be, for some people, it'll be sports. For some people, it'll be, hey, we have this great arts program. For some people, it'll say we have these great missional opportunities that we do. For some people, it'll say we take our classes on these great trips. But whatever it is for your school, you have to take that and intertwine that into the message that you have of the gospel that you're sharing with your community. Those things have to go hand in hand because that's what's going to really separate you from just another school down the street that's Catholic or Presbyterian or non-denominational.
For sure. And I think, too, one other jumping off point from there is you're going to be attracting families then that come from all different backgrounds. And so then when you welcome these students into your school, you're going to have to be ready to answer questions like different family makeup and dynamics. And is that okay in your school community? Or questions like families that have zero religious background or maybe even are opposed to it. Or the question I always get a kick out of when a family comes that isn't interested in the faith aspect is, can my child skip chapel? Do they have to go to chapel every week? And all those types of things. So as you welcome new families into your school, it's really important to strongly know who you are at your core so that your core dictates who you are and what you do, not your community influencing it the other way. Your faith is your ethos. It's your main central focus of why you do what you do. So just something to consider. That could be a whole nother broadcast or a whole nother podcast, I should say, jumping off of this. But I think one of the important things, though, is that people see your school or they can brand identify with your school. So you've got all these different places, if you see the Golden Arches, you're in for a slimy cheeseburger and go for it. Or the Circle C for Chick-fil-A, whatever. They've got all these things that are very recognizable. The question becomes, if somebody saw your logo on the back of a car, if you have car stickers, or on a lanyard, if you have those, or a coffee cup at a kid's game, and they saw, for me, it's a cross with a heart on it. I want everybody to identify with that's Bethany. That's a place where Jesus is shared. So how do you, get your logo out there so far and wide that it's unmistakable that this is your school? Do you have any good stories of how you've done that, Rob?
Well, I think first you got to make sure you actually have a logo. And I think for a lot of schools, we maybe use the church's logo, right? But then if people see that, do they know you have a school? That's something you got to make sure. They have to be unified, absolutely. There has to be that connection there. You have to be able to identify them. And once you figure out, okay, here's our logo, maybe you do use the church's logo and it's unified. I've been at schools where that's been the case. We had a mosaic cross in a sense, and that was the church, school, and childcare's logo. And it was lovely. And I've been at places where the church had one and the school had one that were very similar. You could tell they were connected, but they were still these distinct logos. But then once you get that, put it on everything. Stickers and posters are cheap, right? Put it on coffee cups, put it on t-shirts, give away magnets with it on it. I know, Mike, you were saying you give away yo-yos and fidget spinners that have the logo on it, right? Just stuff to get in people's hands so they can take it. Maybe it's pens. Pens are cheap. You can buy 1,000 pens with your logo on them for something like $90. Do that, and then every time someone comes in the office, oh, you need a pen? Great. And they take that pen, and that pen ends up somewhere else, but it's got your logo on it, it's got your number on it. Just those little things that get it out there. And that's not just to put your logo on stuff, but the more people see your logo, the more you end up kind of in the back of their brain at times. So then we start thinking of schools. They go, oh, you know what? Well, this place has got a school. I remember I see the logo all over the place. And that's not a bad thing to get it out there. There's a reason every company has a logo. And there's a reason you remember what all those logos are, because that's something that's effective marketing wise.
That's right. And I think the more you can do that and the more often you can do it, the better. And there's some fairly inexpensive ways that you can do this. Of course, it all does require some budgeting. But at one school where I served, every single year, we did a full round of T-shirts that we gave the kids. And it was just a regular colored T-shirt with our school's logo in enormous right on the front. And we would see those T-shirts walking all around the community, at the local Target or the sports field or wherever in the theater. And it was always fun to say, hey, you're a kid from this particular school. The other thing that I think is a fun thing to do is if you can use your logo, use your branding to help celebrate your kids is a fun thing. So we always get yard signs here that says congratulations graduates, and we give those to our eighth graders, and we go and put them in their lawns ahead of graduation, and they think it's a great thing. But then you're also advertising to your community that not only did this kid go there, they graduated, so the academics got to be good, and then they see the logo happening there as well. So there's a lot of ways that you can actively get the logo in the hands of your current families and turn them into marketing tools for your school.
Yeah. Bumper stickers, car magnets. We did chalk spray paint. You can get chalk spray paint. It's washable with water, but we'd take it and we had our logo and you'd spray paint it on the sidewalk outside somebody's house. And it was fantastic, and then it would just wash away in the rain, right? Little things. It doesn't have to be anything huge. It doesn't have to be anything expensive. Just be a little more intentional about getting it out there if you're not being intentional now. And the reason for that is you want people to be talking about your school, because the most effective marketing you will ever get is word of mouth. The most effective recruiting tool you have in your school are the people in your school already. And so you want them to be able to talk about your school. And some of that is giving them messages that they can share, giving them simple things that they can do, and having opportunities for them to see the great things you're doing. So when they're talking to somebody in the checkout line, getting ready for an event, they can talk about how great this was last year, how great the one was the week before, or how excited they are looking forward to the one coming up. So Mike, what do you guys do to prepare and equip your parents to be effective messengers effectively for your school?
You're spot on, Rob. I think we need to tell the message in a way that we want it repeated. And so if we don't tell the message, if there's a void in that communication, they will fill it in with their own things. And I certainly want to communicate as much as possible so that they know what's going on in our schools. So, I mean, there's the obvious tools of communication. We've discussed that before, but really it's pushing that out. Of course, then you have your social media presence, your online presence, online marketing, all those types of things. But I think this can all sound a little daunting maybe to somebody who's listening who maybe they don't have a school logo or they don't have a school budget for this kind of thing, or they can't afford even a bumper sticker or whatever it might be. So the question I think circulates around to how do you get to a point where you do have the marketing tools that you need to really share your story? And it might take a little time to develop something like that, but one of the most effective tools that you as an administrator can lead through is a marketing plan to dream about what does this marketing look like, and then how do you get there? So is it that you are engaging the services of a company to create a logo, or do you have somebody in your midst that might be some sort of a graphic design artist or something to that effect? It doesn't have to cost a lot, but if you're doing a marketing plan and you want to invest in this, well, that of course then feeds into your budget and to other documents that you need to prepare. But having a plan, and then using, as you were just saying, the people who are around you to share your story, that's part of your plan as well. Putting all that together, it gives you a target to aim for. And while you might shift a little bit as you head toward that target, you're heading in the right direction. There's lots of schools that have these plans developed. I know a lot have gone out on the LEA network, so I'd encourage people to have a look or ask a school for their marketing plan and see what they come up with, because it might inspire you and give you some ideas too.
Now, maybe you have all that stuff already. Maybe you're a school that has this is all old hat for, right? And maybe you're a school that even is fortunate enough to have a marketing director. Now, we all know that in Lutheran schools, everyone does two or more jobs. That's the wonderful part about Lutheran teachers is you guys are so committed that you're doing the work of more than one person all the time, right? We know that. And if you're fortunate enough to be able to build in a position for marketing, that's one of those things that once you hit a certain size of your school, the principal's doing a lot of it, the teachers are doing a lot of it. But once you hit a certain threshold, you got to start looking at, okay, is this a position? Is this something we can do with volunteers? Great, right? But is this something we need to build into a budget? And is this something we need to look at having as a paid staff position? Because that's one of those things that, if done well, does pay for itself, right? Because you are bringing in people that wouldn't have been there before. Somebody's full-time job is enrolling kids and getting the name of your school out there. And I know some schools have a full-time position for that. I know some schools that have a part-time position for that. I know some schools that have, the PTL does it, and they workshop all that. But whatever it is, have a focus on that. Now, Mike, you guys are fortunate enough to have a marketing director at your school. Is that right?
We do. Yeah, we have somebody who works a 25-hour work week, but I would label that as Rob said to me in a conversation earlier, it's the Lutheran 25-hour work week. So she's working a lot more than that, but she has a real deep love for the school. And I've been in schools though that didn't have them as well. And for a while, I was sitting pretty thinking, hey, we've got a couple of parents here that are just out of this world, and they're doing it for me at no cost. But then the kids graduate or they move, and then you get this void in there. And to expect the principal to fill the void, we have a lot of hats that we need to wear. And so we can do these things, but the question becomes, are we the most effective at it? And for some principals, that answer might be yes, which is fantastic. For me, it was no. I know that I know what I need to commit to. And so if I add too much to that plate, I'm not really doing a great job of anything. And so when I budget, I tend never to skimp on curriculum because it's what you do, and marketing because it tells people what you do. Those are the things that I think are really important. And so getting that message out, well, it might be a leap of faith for somebody to jump into a marketing role. You can start it small. You could start with even 10 hours a week or even go 5 hours a week. And as Rob just said, that marketing director will, as they're doing their job, they'll get more students into your school. And then, of course, growth perpetuates growth. And you'll find that position to be a very sustainable one in the near future.
Yeah, it's interesting. Once you pass a certain size, people get more interested in your school. Some people really like the small school, but you'll have parents that'll come through if you're a school of 50 or 60 kids and they'll say, it's a little small, right? There's definitely a Goldilocks zone there, and you're going to have to figure what that is for your school. But growth is one of those things your school will have to continue to grow. If you can't find new kids, eventually all your kids graduate. That's how school works. So that's not a bad thing to be focused on. Now, okay, you have your marketing out there. You put together a plan. Maybe you have some volunteers or a person who's going to be in charge of this. What is the end goal of that? Because if the end goal is, hey, we did it, I don't know if that's enough. Your marketing has to call people to do something, and that is enroll, right? Or call your school, contact your school. You want them in the door. The way I always viewed it, if I can get somebody to step foot in our building, I'm 90% certain they're going to enroll their kid. So I need to get them into our building. Maybe that's for an open house. Maybe that's for a tour. Maybe that's for a shadow day. Maybe that's to a meet the teacher night if you're a prospective family. But you need to get people into your building. Mike, do you guys do anything interesting? Is that call to action to get people to Bethany?
Yeah, it's a great point. We just did something recently here where we did a kindergarten open house, in fact, just the other night. And we said to them, if you came to that open house and if you registered within a 24-hour window after that open house, we had a special gift for you. And we made these really cute t-shirts that say, I'm a Bethany Trojan, class of 2032. And so these kids got their future class t-shirts, and the parents just thought it was adorable. And we had some parents that had already enrolled in kindergarten that came that night just because they thought the t-shirt was cute. T-shirt cost me a couple of bucks, and here we go. We've got that down pat. But I agree with you. I feel like anything you can do to get them in your building, which then also expands to things like community, like a Christmas fair, vendor fair, or ways that you're serving in the community that brings people in. If you're doing a canned food drive and you have signs out, just drop your food off here, or if you're a donation site for something, whatever it is, there's a lot of ideas of ways that you can get people in. But you're right. Usually when they're in your building, they're most likely to enroll. So keeping them engaged is important. There's one other group of people that I think it's important we recognize is, as far as marketing goes, when they enroll, you've got that group that is waiting to come. So right now we're recording this, it's November, and I have a lot of kindergarten kids already registered, and even some for other grades for next year. So how do you engage them until they start, what, 10 months from now? Rob, do you guys do anything that keeps them engaged?
Yeah, we try to add everybody to we use Constant Contact for our mailing list and get everybody onto the mailing list. And so they get the emails for the major events. They don't get emails about like, hey, it's this shirt day, or hey, it's the end of the quarter, but things like, hey, we have this family night coming up, or we have this event coming up, or here's a special chapel coming up, and keeping them plugged in. Because the worst thing you can do is sign somebody up in November and then ignore them until August. Because some of them will stick around because they go, okay, I got it out of my way, check, right? Some of them will keep looking, and some of them will hear other things like, man, this other school that we toured, that we decided not to register with, they keep calling me and asking if we have a spot and to check how the kid is doing. Maybe we should go there. And it doesn't have to be anything major, but just a simple connection. And maybe it's just inviting them to a chapel. Maybe it's inviting them to church on Sunday. Maybe it's a church event you invite them to. Maybe it's even you have a newsletter just for new families. And I've seen schools do that where you make them ahead of time. You get them all lined up. You say, okay, 1 week after they enroll, they get this newsletter that's all about, hey, we're so glad you're here. A month after they enroll, this one goes out automatically to everyone on the mailing list. Hey, here are the things to be thinking of. Maybe you have one that goes out in the summer. Hey, here's the supply list, and we're so excited to see you soon. But you can get a lot of that keyed up ahead of time because for the most part, what the new family process is going to be like. So you can get all those connections rolling and all of that into a nice simple format that you can share. And that's one thing that's actually great because you can give that to your existing families too, because marketing is not just about your new people. Marketing is also about keeping the people you have and sharing the wonderful things that they're doing and the wonderful things that you get to see work through them. Because it's not just outwardly focused. If it was only outwardly focused, you are missing, like we said earlier, your biggest resource, which are the people in your building. So it's also about honoring them and reflecting the work that they're doing. Mike, do you guys do anything special to honor the people you guys have in your building?
For sure. And like you're saying, it's a matter of then it equips them with the story. So how do you do these things? And so we have a lot of different kind of fun events where, I mean, when we sign people up for the next year, we recognize, hey, we've already signed you up. Congratulations, you are now a fifth grader. But it's January. I know, but we just enrolled you in fifth grade. Isn't this exciting? So some of those kinds of things. And then it's that communication piece. But really, at the end of the day, there's not huge events that we do, but we recognize that every interaction that we have with a family is vital to their retention. And so showing the love of God to them through caring for them, through listening to them, the way that the teachers work with them in the classroom with the kids, all of that plays into the whole marketing category of retention. And we could easily talk for a whole podcast simply, I think, on retention. So while I would say there's no specific event that we do, every day building those relationships intentionally is an event in and of itself, because we want people to have relationships with us, so they want to stick around, but most importantly, that relationship with Jesus, which transcends those their years here at our school. Somebody once asked me, what's the best way to market your school? And I heard an answer to that I like to repeat when I'm asked that question. I think the best marketing is whatever gets into the hands of the people you're trying to reach. So that speaks to knowing your community, knowing all about your school, knowing how people receive messages in your area, how people see your school. So whatever kind of messages you can get into the hands of the folks that you're looking to reach, that's your best form of marketing. So I'd encourage principals to think about that, and maybe in their context, what is that going to be?
Yeah, and also don't be afraid to just ask people who are new to your building, "Hey, how do you hear about us?" Just little line on a form, right? Just so you know, and then maybe even don't be afraid to ask people. We all do surveys, right? And just send a survey out. Hey, what's one great thing about our school that you wish we highlighted more often? Simple questions. Now, I think we've probably covered enough. There's so much to this topic, and I think we're going to do a part two where we're actually going to talk about the enrollment mechanics, wait lists, and what systems you use, and how to keep track of all that. But I think this is probably a good spot to leave it. You got any parting words, Mike?
No, just know who you are, know what your school does well, know what your community needs, and then pair those things together and leave it in the hands of God. If you're worried about enrollment, if you're worried about do people know who we are, continue to be faithful to that work and give it to God, and He will bless your efforts. Rob, you any last words of wisdom?
Be the best you that you can be. It's cliche, but there is only one of your school. And so stick with those things. Be strong in your faith and be strong in what you do. And everything else, if you're doing those things well, everything else is a little bit easier.
It sure is. So prayers for you all, as we know that we know the why behind we do, but the why behind why we do all of this, of course, is to share the love of God with Jesus. And as we do that, there's not just results here on earth, there's eternal results in our work. And as we work toward those results, God blesses us with joy. So as you work, may the joy of the Lord be your strength.
Blessings on your week.